Hello, everybody. This is Mark Comfort. Mimi and I, my wife Mimi and I, are the owners of Cruise Holidays Kansas City. And by the way, we are about, let's see, what are we exactly? We are 34 days away from our 34th year in business anniversary, November 14th. How about that, of 1988? That's pretty cool. I guess that's 34 days. Today we're starting with Princess, and we're going to talk Princess with an emphasis to Alaska because Princess is known for a lot of things. First of all, they're known for being the Love Boat cruise line, and they are also known for their incredibly strong presence in Alaska, as they have been for the entire time we've been in business. I'll tell you, our very first group was on a Princess cruise to Alaska. So we have had marvelous memories of all of our Princess trips, but especially that first group. We took our kids at that time. Oh my gosh, this will tell you, our son is 37. We took him when he was 7 years old. Our daughter was 10. And you know, back then, this is really funny. We sent our kids to a manners class because we were going to be with a group and we wanted them to have the proper manners for cruising on Princess Cruises. And with me today is Mr. Joe Sieb, our Princess representative that has called on us for really quite a while now. And hey, Joe, welcome. And my gosh, I'll tell you what, even though the weather's starting to cool off, this is the time of the year to be thinking about next summer's plans to Alaska, isn't it?
It certainly is, Mark, and thank you for the long introduction. I think it's important to know history, and you were one of the original early cruise holiday franchises as well, I believe. And we've had a long-standing relationship, and we appreciate it very much. Alaska, actually, we're in really the heaviest booking period really of the year for next year's Alaska product. So by all means, while it seems like a long ways off and the weather seems odd to be booking Alaska right now, it really is the key time to do it. You have the most choice, the most options, and all sorts of things. So to get started, we're talking mainly about 2023 Alaska today, but keep in mind that shortly, and Mark will have, and when I say Mark, sometimes I mean his staff, we'll have the 2024 product available to sell and present to you as well. So they're both available. Alaska is our heart and soul, always has been. Just like Mark said, we're well known for it. It's our bread and butter. And by all means, with Princess, and bear with me just a moment, our shared purpose is how we start out every presentation to share our world. Today, that's Alaska. Our hearts protect the earth, and by that we really mean leaving a smaller environmental footprint behind and creating lasting memories. So two things I want to share with you and expand on just a little bit. Protecting the earth. As an example, in Juneau, the port of Juneau, it's a pretty enclosed port. When we pull into the port of Juneau, Mark and audience, we actually turn the ship off for environmental reasons and hook up to local power. We've invested millions of dollars to be able to do that. It's called cold ironing, and it really helps that protecting the earth element as that's part of our shared purpose. Then creating lasting memories, that's what we're all about. When you come home and you share your lasting memories with your friends and family, then we know what we've accomplished, what we've set out to. We're pretty convinced you're going to enjoy the scenery, all of the activity on board the ship, listening to the presenters, maybe meeting Livy Riddles while we're in the port of Juneau as she gets on board the ship and conducts a sled dog presentation. All of that, we're convinced you're going to enjoy it. But when you come home and share those memories, then we really know we've accomplished what we've set out to do. So a couple of things. I'm going to talk about Alaska vacationing in general. We'll walk through what we call a cruise tour, which is a 7-day cruise along with anywhere from a 3 to 7 or 8 or 9 day land trip. And the land portion, we consider the interior of Alaska, north of Anchorage, going as far north as Fairbanks, as far east as our Copper River Lodge. And then we'll go through some frequently asked questions. And having done this for quite some time, many times with cruise holidays, we are able to anticipate most of the questions that come up. And we know there are a lot when it comes to making your decision about which Alaska vendor to use and which parts of Alaska you might want to see. All right, we know from all of our surveys that the number one reason most of us say that we want to go to Alaska is to see glaciers. Without question, this photo on the left-hand side of the screen is our ship, and our ships are all purpose-built for scenic cruising, destination scenic cruising. These folks are all out on deck enjoying Marjorie Glacier, which is deep into Glacier Bay National Park. On every single cruise tour itinerary, we have a permit from the National Park Service to visit and to enter Glacier Bay National Park. And they only allow a handful of large ships a day into Glacier Bay National Park. So this Marjorie Glacier is the crown jewel of Glacier Bay National Park. It's deep into the bay. It's about a mile wide at the water. The last few years, the glacier's been calving, and it's a tidewater glacier, which in lay terms really means that when the ice calves, when it falls into the water, it's actually falling into the water. That's what a tidewater glacier is. And Marjorie Glacier, again, deep into Glacier Bay National Park, has been calving on the left-hand side quite a bit the last few years. And so we always provide you with Glacier Bay National Park on every single cruise tour, and also a second glacier viewing opportunity from the ship as well. Going north, we visit an area called College Fjord, which is a long, narrow fjord that we enter. We turn around and come back out of it, and there might be 3 or 4 or 5 glaciers within your view at any one time. And you might see both tidewater glaciers and other glaciers on the mountainsides that are within your view as well. If you're coming south, rather than Hubbard Glacier, or excuse me, rather than College Fjord, we visit an area called Hubbard Glacier. And I'll talk more about that after a little bit. Number 2, we know everybody wants to see Denali Park. There isn't any question about it. Denali Park is 6 million square miles. By definition, this is where you have a chance to see Denali as it's known. Used to be known as Mount McKinley, now it's called Denali. On all of our cruise tours, we spend at least one night, oftentimes 2 nights, at the Denali Princess Wilderness Lodge, or at our other lodge, and or at our other lodge near the park called the Mount McKinley Princess Wilderness Lodge. So great opportunity, but the key is that we provide you with the chance. If you're at the Denali Lodge, or when you are, this is the staging point for tours into the park. And with limited exceptions, there's a tour into the park included as well. And then wildlife. The Denali Big Five, kind of also known as the Alaska Big Five, really starts out with caribou. If you're on a cruise tour, we can just about guarantee you'll see caribou. We can't guarantee it, but just about for sure. And Dawes sheep. You'll see when you're on a tour, motor coach tour into the park itself, you'll see Dawes sheep on the mountainsides. Moose and bear seem to be kind of the wild cards, and hopefully you'll have a chance to see them. And then wolves are the last part of the Big Five in Denali. So wildlife is a key part of your trip. And then just kind of as a bonus, I like to say, even though it's not part of the Denali Five, you're going to see whales too, almost for sure, either from the ship and or from a smaller boat shore excursion that will take you out on the water to see whales, maybe at Juneau. And just to kind of give you a little bit of a heads up, when we're cruising through the inside passage, our onboard naturalist that cruises with us the entire 7 days of the cruise will point out interesting sights, and hopefully we'll be spotting whales throughout the day as well. And of course, they'll announce those sightings. And then in and out of Ketchikan is another likely place that you will see whales as well. And then again, there are smaller boat shore excursions that will take you out to see whales as well. All right, anytime you see the North to Alaska logo on any of our daily newspapers or the electronic version of the daily newspaper with listing activities, if you see that North to Alaska logo, or if you see something described as part of our North to Alaska program, it's part of our onboard enrichment program. So here's a park ranger that has boarded the ship, which they do every single time we enter into Glacier Bay National Park. They'll provide you with an opportunity to have a personal audience, or here's a small group of people that he's talking about Marjorie Glacier with. If there's enough kids under 5 years old, 5 years and under, there'll be a park ranger that will board the ship just to spend the entire day with the kids. It's the most, Mark, you mentioned early on that this is one of your first group trips with your kids. It remains to be an incredibly engaging destination for everybody of all ages, including the kids, and maybe especially the kids. This young couple here in the lower right-hand corner of my screen are enjoying real-life dog, sled dog puppies. We have a dog musher that will board the ship on some sailings. The sailings vary, but on some sailings, board the ship in Skagway and conduct a little short presentation on sled dog racing in the atrium, and they'll bring their own sled dog puppies on board the ship as well. Many other elements and components to the North to Alaska program that you'll read about and hear announced throughout your cruise. A couple of things about Princess, and then we'll kind of walk through a sample cruise tour. We were founded in 1965. We were the backdrop for the TV show The Love Boat. And if anybody's ready to watch an updated version of The Love Boat, the real Love Boat show debuts tomorrow evening, October 5th. And then in Los Angeles, we've been cruising Alaska since 1969, so this will be our 53rd year next summer. The enriching experience, along with dedicated rail travel, the lodges, which are owned and operated and were built just for Princess. We have 5 of them, along with the employees that are mostly local Alaskans. This is what altogether is just one big highlight of what we offer in Alaska. All right, a sample cruise tour or a couple of itineraries I'll mention first. One is that we have this great itinerary from Vancouver or from Seattle, where the ships will set sail from Vancouver or Seattle, anywhere from 7 to 10 or 11 nights northbound, as far north as Glacier Bay or Hubbard Glacier, depending on the itinerary, calling on a number of ports of call, including typically Juneau, Ketchikan, Skagway. Some of the longer cruises will call on ports like Sitka, Haines, and even Victoria as well. And then these itineraries bring us back to Seattle or Vancouver. We don't go quite far enough north to do a cruise tour, but these are great itineraries, really fly friendly, where you fly round trip to Seattle or Vancouver. Makes for a real simple trip, north and back to the home port. And we calling kind of a variation of Glaciers to provide that glacier experience. But Glacier Bay National Park on some sailings, Dawes Glacier, which is at the end of a long, narrow fjord called Endicott Arm, or Hubbard Glacier. So typically these itineraries will call on one single Glacier Bay or glacier viewing opportunity. All right, then if we're cruising the Voyage of the Glaciers, which starts in Vancouver, cruises north to Whittier, which is the port city for Anchorage. This takes 7 days, typically cruises the inside passage up to Ketchikan, or around the outside part of the inside passage for part of the cruise, and typically calls on Juneau, Ketchikan, and Skagway. There's some variations, limited variations, 2 glacier viewing opportunities, and then arriving Whittier, the port city for Anchorage, where you can, if you're just cruising, you can fly home. We have 3 ships on this itinerary, going north or going south, either direction. There's a couple of glacier viewing opportunities that you'll have on these itineraries. One is Glacier Bay National Park, the other being either Hubbard Glacier or College Fjord. So on a sample cruise tour, we're going to start in my sample down in the lower right-hand corner. We're going to start in Vancouver and cruise northbound. And then we're going to get off the ship in Whittier, the port city for Anchorage, and then from there start the land tour. So we'll kind of walk through a sample of this trip, which would be kind of a typical trip that so many of us are interested in. And as I'm describing this, keep in mind, please, if you will, that you can do this trip in exactly the opposite direction. So I'm going to go northbound in my sample, but keep in mind you could start by flying to Alaska, doing the land trip and cruising south. All right, so we're going to arrive Vancouver, and the ship will set sail right from the port of in Canada Place, right downtown Vancouver, one of the most beautiful cities in the world. And if you're able to add a day to your vacation and go the day before and spend the morning walking around downtown Vancouver, you board the ship. The ship will set sail late in the day, and we cruise through the Inside Passage all day long. It's a day where we don't get off the ship. We just enjoy it and the awe of the Inside Passage all day. Like I mentioned earlier, the onboard naturalists will be on board the ship the entire 7 days. And during this Inside Passage day, they'll be on the bridge with the crew. So they'll have advanced sightings of different interesting sites that they'll point out, and hopefully those whales as well. A great day cruising the Inside Passage. Takes about 30 hours, 330 miles to get up to Ketchikan. Ketchikan's a real friendly port, 12 or 14,000 people. Well known for its totem poles, and also known as the salmon fishing capital of the world. It's a port where you can easily just get off the ship, walk into town. Within a half a block, you're on Main Street in downtown Ketchikan. You can pick up a self-guided walking map and enjoy it that way. Or you might purchase a short 2 or 3 hour city motor coach tour for $30 or $40 a person. It'll take you out to one of the local villages. You can see these wonderful, beautiful totem poles. They're also around downtown too, so you can see some of the totem poles up close just on your own. Then we typically call on Juneau. Juneau, as I mentioned earlier, is a spot where you can do a shore excursion that will take you out on the water on a smaller boat to see whale watching. It's also, if you're going north, your first opportunity to see a glacier. In the left-hand upper corner here is a photo of Mendenhall Glacier, about 10 miles out of town. You can see it by just visiting it from the visitor center, or you can take a helicopter ride and land out on top of the glacier. But regardless, it's your first chance going north, your last chance if you're coming south. This is the port where Libby Riddles typically boards the ship and conducts a presentation on her sled dog racing exploits, and she just tells a very compelling story. One of the real neat shore excursions that's part of our North to Alaska program will be some of our fishing excursions. They're also referred to as Cook My Catch. And it is such where, like this, I'm going to guess a grandfather and granddaughter are fishing, and if they catch fish, they can tell the vendor, the shore excursion boat operator, that they'd like to have the fish prepared for them on board the ship, and they'll make those arrangements with the ship. They'll cook your personal fish right in the dining room and deliver it to you at dinner time. While this right here, this photo is not my own photo, it's a stock photo, but this is actually a photo of the fish my family caught and the platter it was delivered on. Skagway is our next port of call. In some cases, Icy Strait Point. Skagway is the port of call for the gold rush of 1898, where the men went to seek their fortune in gold. and the famous White Pass Scenic Railway shore excursion is here. Or if we visit Icy Strait Point on some of the southbound sailings, we visit a port that's rather new to us, a bit more remote, rustic. And there's bear watching shore excursions. There's another whale watching shore excursion. There's a zip line that's 5 minutes long, which while I'm not a zip liner myself, I'm told that's an extremely long zip line. And there's a tram up and over this this mountainside here in the right-hand photo. So a great true to life Alaska experience. Here's just a personal photo leaving one of the ports of call and what you might see as the sun starts to go down. It's really quite surreal looking. So we always visit Glacier Bay National Park, and then going north, either College Fjord, that's the photo in the lower center of the screen, or Hubbard Glacier. Hubbard Glacier is the second glacier viewing opportunity when we're coming south. Hubbard Glacier is 6 miles wide at the water. It starts 76 miles inland, and it's really quite dramatic. If ice that's calving, like this gigantic calve that you see in the photo, if this ice is ice that formed at the beginning of the glacier, 76 miles inland, it would be 400-year-old ice. Here's another picture, a couple of them, of the same glacier, Marjorie Glacier, deep into Glacier Bay National Park, of course, and obviously from totally different perspectives. Marjorie is a mile wide, several hundred feet high, and that deep as well. Then we arrived Whittier, the port city for Anchorage. You'd fly home if you weren't doing a cruise tour. But in most cases, when you're doing a cruise tour, you will board Princess dedicated direct to the Wilderness Rail Service that will take you right through downtown Anchorage. It'll take you to either our Denali Princess Wilderness Lodge, the starting point for tours into the park itself, or the Mount McKinley Princess Lodge, the only public lodge in Alaska that potentially has a view of Mount Denali herself. So on the front deck, on the right-hand side of the lodge there, you can see there in the photo, the mountain is 41 miles away. If the weather cooperates, here's the view of the mountain. I've had the pleasure of experiencing it myself a number of times. It's really quite dramatic. It's very rugged. It's described as having its own weather system. So look at the peak on the upper left-hand corner there, and you can see the weather as well. The other potential glacier viewing opportunity is right from the Mount McKinley Lodge as well, from this treehouse. If anybody has seen the TV reality show Treehouse Masters, they'll know that on season 9, episode 9, this group of people that build these dramatic and elaborate tree houses around the world built one on our Mount McKinley Lodge grounds. All right, and then they potentially have a view as well. Some cruise tours, when you arrive Whittier, you board a motor coach and go south a couple of hours to the Kenai Princess Lodge, and then later on you would go up to the Denali Lodge and experience the rail travel as well. A number of different variations. Or you might go 8 hours east to the Copper River Lodge, really another lodge that we have. And then in some cases, going all the way north to Fairbanks. So while the cruise is the same from Vancouver to Anchorage, with limited exceptions, either direction, the land portion is where when you sit down with Mark's staff or converse with them, they'll discuss it with you and try to figure out exactly which is the right one for you, because there's about 20 or 25 different choices. All right, so kind of wrapping up here now with some frequently asked questions and some important items. Well, what's the best time to go and which direction? If you like it to be cooler and crisper with some snow in the lower elevations, early to mid-May is a great time to go. As you wait for the summer to evolve and the long days and the much longer growing season, you'll see some of the long the big flowers and the large cabbage size things because of the long growing days in mid-June to mid-August. Temperature is about 10 degrees warmer on average. Or if you wait till the fall, you'll see some fall colors as well. So it's really great throughout the season. It's really just more of a personal decision. Northbound or southbound is equally as great. Northbound tends to be priced slightly lower simply because there's more people that think they want to go south. So either way is great. 5 nights of your cruise, it's called Smart Casual for the evening dress attire, where everybody just simply looks nice. And then on the other 2 nights, the dress is formal. And one of Mark's staff will visit with you about that and go over some of those options for you. During the day, you'll always see people dressed like you'd expect them to be dressed, in khaki pants and blue jeans and sweatshirts and that sort of thing. I always suggest that you pack the dress in layers, but to make sure to bring a stocking cap with you and also a pair of gloves. So if it is a cool, misty day when you're in Glacier Bay National Park, you'll be prepared for it, okay? You want to be prepared. You want to be outside on deck all day. That's why you bought this trip, and that's why you want to enjoy it. After you've made your purchase, you'll decide if you want to buy your airline ticket through Cruise Holidays. Most likely you do. Insurance, you'll go through that. But after you've made your purchase, the additional spending that you can expect will be shore excursions and land excursions. Shore excursions are those activities from the ports of call. Land excursions are additional activity from the lodges that is not described as included. Dining at the lodges, on the trains, and in specialty dining are additional. Wi-Fi, crew appreciation, formerly known as gratuities, and beverages are all additional as well. However, in many cases, you'll most likely purchase as part of your original purchase a package that includes that Wi-Fi, crew appreciation, and beverages. And everybody needs a passport as well, okay? And I like to suggest that you go home tonight, or when you're home tonight, to actually pull out your passport, make sure it's good for at least 6 months past the last date that you plan to travel. And then as we started out, Mark and I both mentioned how this is a key booking period for Alaska 2023, as it is every fall for the following Alaska season. You have the most choice and probably still available. There's probably what you want still available. It's a great time to book. We have a great promotion going on right now called the Love Boat Sale, and it includes Alaska 2023 sailings. It's a reduced and refundable deposit of $100, and it also includes a additional shore excursion credit on your booking as well. If anybody has a history with the military, please remember that we have a shipboard credit promotion for you. So by all means, make sure you communicate with the staff about that. They'll ask you for your DD 214 form, and Princess will send that information into Princess to see if you qualify for an added shipboard credit. All ships are medallion class cruising. You'll be prepared to board long before you ever even get to the pier. Medallion class cruising is just a game changer experience out on board the ship, but it all starts really when we send you this medallion about 10 days before your cruise starts or your land trip starts. And it acts as your key card, your way to purchase things. It opens your door for you. It replaces what we used to provide you services via the key card. Anticipating your vacation is a great asset to advance booking, and by all means, we really recommend that. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Here's just another concluding photo of Marjorie venture deep into Glacier Bay National Park. We'd love to entertain you next summer. If you've submitted any questions, please know somebody from Cruise Holidays will follow up with you with answers.
Well, Joe, thank you very, very much. And I'll tell you, yes, we will send a link out of this very presentation, of this very good presentation. Joe, thank you so much. Great job. And you can even forward that link to anybody who maybe you know that might want to go to Alaska with you. And then, of course, get a hold of us. And by the way, you know, a lot of times people have friends or family all over the country. And if you want to go together, which so many people are doing right now since the pandemic, a lot of people are traveling together. Do let your friends know we can help them as well as you here locally. Okay. The other thing, Joe said it earlier, let me restate it. This is prime booking time for Alaska. So it'll be well worth your while if you get ahead of the game and start the planning process now. And if you've not booked a cruise before, you just have to put down a relatively small deposit. That will actually allow us to hold your exact stateroom until final payment time, which normally is 90 days or there before you leave on the cruise. We will then be able to help you with your air schedule if you want us to. If you've got points, we can just give you suggestions on air. We can help you with pre-packages and post-packages. And like Joe said earlier, gosh, if you have a chance to go to Vancouver especially, but Seattle, Vancouver, or Anchorage before or after your cruise or cruise tour ends, please, please do so. My goodness gracious, I agree with Joe. Those are some of the most beautiful cities. And, you know, they call Alaska the last great frontier for a reason. And being up in Anchorage, which, gosh, I forget what it is, like a third to a half of the entire country or state of Alaska live in Anchorage. So it's just a beautiful area all around there, and we can help you with, gosh, anything that you might want to do. Maybe go to Kodiak and see the bears, or maybe go up to Nome and see where the Iditarod, I think it ends up there. So lots and lots and lots of great things to do. And my counsel to you is this, over 34 years of experience, please, please, please take at least a balcony cabin if you can. You'll be so glad you did. Or better. Again, you have to realize during a lot of the Alaska season, there'll be 18 and sometimes up to 20 hours of daylight, and you'll get to see some of the most beautiful scenery in the world. And about the only kind of complaints the only kind of complaints we've ever gotten to Alaska are, number one, I wish we would not have had an inside room. I wish we would have had an ocean view room or a balcony room specifically. That's one. And number two, it's from the people that just did the cruise and did not do any land before or after. They almost inevitably tell us when they get back, they wish they would have spent a little bit more time and a little bit more of their kids' inheritance to do the land tour associated with the cruise. I can promise you, you'll never regret doing that, because as Joe showed you, as Joe is telling you, as I'm telling you, it's some of the most beautiful scenery in the world. And when you get to see glaciers like that, I mean, honest to goodness, outside of Antarctica, you'll never see anything like that in your whole life. It's just spectacular. And if you do get lucky enough to see the calving, consider yourself blessed, because it is a marvelous experience. Marvelous, marvelous. Same way, just like Joe showed you and said, with the wildlife of Alaska, whether it's whales, whether it's bear, whether it's, in the salmon run, that's a sight to behold too. Seeing the bald eagle swooping down and grabbing up those salmon is something fabulous to see too. So much to see there. And again, I always say, start your prayer right now if you're going up to Denali National Park, that the weather will be good enough for you to see Mount McKinley, Denali. It is mind-boggling how big and how amazing that is. We can help you with all the must-see or must-do tours. That's another reason why it's important to book early, because the best tours, like one of my favorites is the helicopter tour in Juneau that goes up over the glaciers, and you get to go do mush sledding, mushing, they call it, with the sled dogs. And oh my gosh, and of course that fills up anything that is a small amount of space, i.e. like on a helicopter tour. Anywhere there's a helicopter tour or a float plane tour, that will sell out first without question. So the sooner you book, the better. And Joe, I got to tell you, every time I look at these pictures of Alaska with the glaciers, with the wildlife, just the overall scenery, it reminds me that not only in our 34 years, but in Princess's and everybody who sells Alaska, Alaska's always, the destination of Alaska is always one of the number 1 or number 2 satisfaction rated destinations in the world. And I encourage you to take advantage of this. There's a lot of people that worry about motion sickness, and I've found that cruising through that inside passage range, which is 2 mountain ranges, so you're cruising right in between them. It's one of the best places to go if you think you might have motion discomfort. We can help you with a lot of ways to not have motion discomfort, but this destination is one of the best places to go for that. And I will tell you, we have, Joe, you'll get a kick out of this. I bet you've heard this a lot too. We have a lot of military guys, especially guys in the Navy, that said, no, I'm never going to get on a boat again. Or guys that say, no, I don't want to cruise. I'm just not a cruiser. Until they do Alaska. And then normally it's their first cruise, and they just get hooked on the whole experience, because it is, again, it's one of the most satisfying vacations you can take anywhere in the world. We used to sell Alaska as a once-in-your-lifetime experience. We don't anymore. People go back 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 times. I can't remember. I think I've been to Alaska 13 or 14 times. Probably, Joe, not as many as you, but enough to know that every time I go back, I absolutely love the destination. And I always find something that I didn't do before that's available to do now that I'm so glad I went to see. Joe, it's a vacation of a lifetime, isn't it?
Well, it certainly is, and everything you said, I agree with. Each time I go, I can't wait to go back again. And there's something new to do each time too. I agree, 100%. And you see new things, you experience new things. So we'd love to entertain you.
Joe, I laugh when I do seminars and webinars like this. I say, and believe it or not, they speak English and they take the American dollars. So it's really true.
No currency exchange.
Joe, thank you so much for doing this webinar today. And again, those of you that are watching, I really appreciate it. And do forward on, when you get the link, forward it on to your friends and family, and they'll be able to see this webinar in its entirety. And of course, we keep this webinar, all of our webinars, up on our website, cruiseholidayskc.com, cruiseholidayskc.com. We've got very preferential pricing with Princess, and if Alaska or any other destination in the world, but in this case, Alaska is what you're looking for, we'd be happy to help you. And like Joe said, we'll have sale pricing until the ship's filled to the point that Princess pulls those promotions that they have. So the early bird gets the worm, and the sooner you make a decision, the better. So again, Joe, thank you very much. All of you who are watching, thank you. We appreciate your business. If you've not done business with us here at Cruise Holidays Kansas City, I can promise you this. Let us have the opportunity to earn your business. You'll be glad you did. Our staff does an amazing job. They know Alaska from firsthand experience, and they can match you up with what's best for you, whether it's the cruise only or the cruise and the land tours. We'd be happy to help you that way. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Joe, thanks. Take care.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.